Hello and welcome to this lecture on filtering records using equality filters. In this lecture, we are going to filter records from a database, an SQL Server database, using various equality filters. We will be using the equals to, the not equals to, the less than or equals to, the greater than or equals to. These are just basic equality filters. So we're going to use these filters in combination with the where clause to filter records out of a database table. I have got SQL Server Management Studio opened, and this is the main tool here. This is the tool we will need to write our T-SQL query. So let's open up a new query window by clicking on this tab here, and this is the query where we'll write the query. And notice here is the database drop-down list. We need to make sure the database we want is selected, because whatever query you write in here in this window will be executed against the database listed. So I want to use the AdventureWorks 2014. So I've got it selected. So any query I write in here will execute against that. So let's have a look at the database. This is the database we're going to be using, AdventureWorks 2014. Let's look at the tables. This is a list of the tables. There are different schemas in this database. I'm going to be using the human resources schema and also the employees table. So let's have a look at the employees table. So these are the columns in the table. These are the various columns. That's the primary key. So let's have a quick look at what's inside the employees table. So we do a select statement. We've already got AdventureWorks database selected, so we don't need to use the keyword use. If we hadn't got it selected, we could use that. This is known as IntelliSense. Double click. So what this does, it forces the query to use this database. This is just in case you forgot to select it from the drop-down list. And then once you're done, just click on Go to begin the query. So I'm going to write a general query just to retrieve all the columns and rows from the employees table. So I go select, select star, which means it will return everything, and then from the database, so I'll type in the schema first, which is human. That's the schema. If I put a dot in there, it will give me a list. That's the employee. So this is what I want, and I just do a semicolon. It's good practice. So my query is good to go. So I'll just execute this, and as you can see, it's giving me 290 rows. So what filtering does, filtering will help you narrow the rows that have been returned. So if I don't want all the rows returned, I can use the where clause in combination with other operators to limit the rows that are returned here. So that's what we're going to do here now. To save time, I have written the query I want to use from line 8 to 11. I will explain it to you. So let me just minimize this so that you can see the whole query. I'll just drag that along. All right, so this is the query here. Take note of this marital status here. If you note this, so this is the column we are going to use as the filter. So this output here is from this first query here, where I've selected all the columns and rows from the employees table. So now I'm applying a filter to reduce the records. Currently it's returned 290. I want to reduce that by using a filter to reduce the number of records that are returned. So I'm using the where clause to return only the records in the employees table where the employees are married. So I'm only looking for the marital status, those that are married. So this is the query here. Line 8, I've got select login ID, which is one of the columns in this table here. Job title, that's the job title column, and then marital status, which is this here. I'm filtering the records by using the marital status. So on line 9 is the from clause. The from identifies the schema and the table. Line 10 is the key here. So on line 10 is the where clause. This is the main player in the filtering of the records. So I've said where the marital status equals to M, which is married. I've used quotes because it is a text, and with text you need to enclose it in quotes. Notice I've used equals to. Equals to is, this is an equality filter. So I've used the equals to here also as a filter in combination with the where clause to produce an output. So let me execute that. Keep a note of that. This is the current row for everything. If I execute this, I expect this to reduce. So let me execute. It's reduced to 146. All right. So, but because I've filtered the records using the marital status or status. So the key player here is the where clause, and I've also used an equals to, which is an equality filter to reduce the records returned or filter out the records I do not want returned by the query. We are going to use a few more equality filters to filter records from this database here. So I've executed this script here. This has returned all the columns and rows from this employee table. So wherever you see the asterisk without column specified, it will return all the columns and rows. If you notice, I've got no filter here, no where clause, no equality filters. It's returned 290 rows. So we're going to use a few more equality filters. So take note of these columns. We're going to use the login ID column. We're going to use the organization level, and we're going to use the job title. So I'm going to use these three columns and perform some filtering on this table. I have written the query here just to save a bit of time, but let me explain that to you. On line 9 is the select keyword, and these are the columns. The login ID, which is this, job title, which is this column, organization level, the organization level is this column here. Line 10 is the from keyword, where you specify the schema and then the table. Notice you separate the schema from the table with a period or a dot. Line 11 is where the filtering occurs. I've used the where clause here as the main player in the filtering. So I'm filtering by this column here called organization level, which is this column here. And I've used a operator, which is also known as a filter, the not equals to. This symbol here means not equals to. So if I execute this, it will return records excluding anyone that's got organization level of 2. So anywhere you see organization level of 2, all these 2 will be excluded from the output I get from the query. So let me execute that, highlight that and go execute. It's reduced the rows to 262, but if I scroll down, you will not find any 2 in there. It's taking all the 2 out, okay, because I've used this filter in here. This filter means not equals 2, so it stripped all the 2 out of this organization level column, thereby reducing the rows that were returned by the query. I'm going to show you the same example using a different filter. This time we are going to use the less than or equals to, and this is how you specify that: less than or equals to. So this symbol here means less than or equals to. So it will filter the records and remove where the records is equals to 2 or less than. So I won't expect to find any 2 or 1s in this record. Okay, so it will strip them out. So it should remove that one. So let me execute this. See that? So where the organization level is less than or equals to 2. So it's removed all the levels higher than 2. So anything higher than 2 will be stripped. Anything less than 2 will be in there. So the output will contain only 2 or anything less than 2. See, it stripped out everything else. As you can see, the records returned or the rows returned has reduced to 33. Okay, so let's change this and use the greater than. So let's do a greater than. Okay, so we've changed the filter to greater than or equals to 2. So when we execute this query, the output should contain organization level of 2 or more. So we wouldn't find any ones in there. So it will be 2 or higher. That's what this means. Greater than or equals to 2. So let me execute. All right, so you can see 2, 3, and so on, but you won't find any ones in there. All right, strip them all out. So that's the greater than or equals to sign. In this lecture, we learned how to filter records using various equality filters. We used the equals to filter, the not equals to, the less than or equals to, the greater than or equals to. We use this in combination with the where clause. Thank you so much for your time.